Hi there, in this third video I'm going to be looking at another technique that the strongest I can use using the corner. So similar to the video we looked at before, 3 squares in the corner, and using that in order to separate the 2 kings. In this particular example you can see on the board now, it's not the only way that white can win this. He could win it in other ways, but if I had this in a practical game, I think it's the first thing that would occur to me, and probably the simplest technique to follow. So white will just simply go into the corner, and then using the pawn in place of, well, in the previous example we had a queen on that square, you'll just occupy those 3 squares and try to get the king to move away. In this case he doesn't immediately have to play king to f3. Black could play, well, black probably would play h6, just leaving it as long as possible. White can effectively stalemate the black king, because black of course has this pawn, so you simply swap between g1 and g2, and then once the pawn has gone all the way up to the edge, he will then run out of squares, and then the mate is quite simple. There is actually a quicker way that white could have done that in this particular case. So in this position, instead of playing queen to f1, he could play queen to f3, and this often happens in these types of endgames. There are often ways that you'll learn by following kind of like a consistent technique, and there'll often be kind of quicker ways of doing it, but they'll be slightly irregular. So often in games, you'll see even really strong players just like missing like these kind of mates in 2 and just kind of following a technique that they've seen in the past, because I mean, as you know, Atomic's played at very fast time controls, and you're often on autopilot in these endgames. So in that situation, I might, well, if you saw me playing a game, doing it the long way. This kind of corner technique of occupying these 3 squares can be used with lots of piece combinations. King and 2 rooks, for example, is another one that can be won in this particular way. And maybe a queen and some other kind of piece as well, like a bishop or a knight, could be done in the same way. So it's important to know, and often it should be really when you get into an endgame with just a few pieces, and that's a possibility, it should be one of the first things that comes into your mind. The next video we're going to move on from this kind of corner techniques, and we're going to be looking at other queen and pawn endgames. So one side has a queen and the other side has connected the kings, for example with 2 blocked pawns, and then we'll move on to being where it's a queen versus a pawn, and some of the techniques you can use to win those very common types of endgames.